how the build orders and stuff are going to probably pan out, but let's start with those player intros. We're going to be starting up here at the top left-hand side of the map, atop of the red Protoss player from Team Exxon. He is MaxPax.
And from Team AGO, it is Elazer.
See, I wish that we had like a little advance notice, like a half a second where we could somehow be told which guitar riff was going to play so we could enact them. But it's okay. I still get one of my other wishes here, Pats, is that you get a cannon rush.
Yeah, it's a cannon rush, and it's a 3-pylon cannon rush, and it's actually a hatch cancel from Elazer right away. I'm surprised that MaxPax is still kind of going for this, though he's not gonna completely commit. He does want that gateway there for some reason. Oh, okay, he doesn't.
Oh no, this is the committed can. Oh my god, he gets the gas steal too. Okay, so this is a committed cannon rush because you can tell he built the forge up in his main base. Like his Wallen, he's staying on one base. There's no way he's gonna be able to reasonably expand super duper quickly here. So he's going to we're going to wait to see when he gets his own gas geysers. And if he gets the second one, it's possibly a good indicator he's going to go for the Robo instead. But he might just go for a second gateway and go for the double stalker opening.
Oh, you are nifty, Ravi. I think either one of those possibilities is good. But I do agree. Like, I do love that MaxPax is doing this in the first place because it's the kind of thing that Elazer will struggle with as a player. Like, he is not a player that's super comfortable in chaos. If you throw him off his game, he still has brilliant mechanics to rely on, but he looks a little bit confused sometimes, basically, when you don't know what's coming. So I don't know. He's probably just gonna commit hard onto something, and let's see what MaxPax's well-planned follow-up is gonna be.
Yeah, remember that, yes, there is that proxy hatch and everything that's kind of coming down in the middle of the map. And yes, Elazer can maybe get drones or something out over there. They're going to be more vulnerable. And he doesn't have an easy way to get his second gas geyser. So yeah, the Rotorworm's coming down great. I'll make Ravagers with one gas geyser. And I'm losing drones to the Zealots. This is not a great start so far for Elazer. But I'd say the best thing is there's only one gateway right now.
Yeah, that is good. But yeah, this Zealot was completely unaccounted for. And in that sense, it is a brilliant Zealot from MaxPax, right? Because obviously Elazer has the capabilities to be able to deal with the Zealot, but it's so unexpected that it just kills a drone and gets out, and you know, it does great. On the other side, MaxPax is just securing his own base, but really it's all going to be about this frontal attack. We can see that the cannons and the batteries are being spread out so that they don't take extra damage against Ravagers. And it seems that Elazer is dead set on Ravagers in spite of having that gas stolen.
Yeah. So in the immortal words of Printf and, you know, Grim Reaper and all the great cannon rushers, usually when you go for these kind of attacks, just like the gateway, you actually have two objectives, right? You pick between which one is going to be your win condition. Either you go after the drones or you go after the hatchery. And every other time, like, you're going to be, of course, having to fight against the army, try and pick away at that. But you either want to kill a lot of the drones or you want to kill the hatchery. And I think that right now, just the way MaxPax has been going about this, he's hugging toward the side with all the drones. I think he wants to try and kill drones whenever he finds an opportunity, and he'll fight the army whenever he has to.
Yeah, because he has so much longevity, it's so very difficult for Elazer to commit onto Ravagers because he just simply doesn't have any gas to work with. And the gas is being sieged actively, so I think that's the main thing for MaxPax is as long as I can deny your gas, what are you gonna do? What Elazer chose to do is get extra queens and spines with those minerals, and he does have a hefty amount of roaches, but I mean, stalkers are gonna be great, and this is a very strong and fortified position, and this gas is gonna be very difficult for him to take. I don't know what he can do, really.
Oh, this is so tough right now for Elazer. He's also been losing some of these queens. Gets a transfuse out, and he at least keeps one of the queens alive a little bit longer. Shield battery energy is starting to get drained on that front line, so you're going to see MaxPax has to retreat further into the depth of his cannon shield battery line. It's not just about the corrosive vials not being able to hit multiple buildings. It creates these beautiful choke points that makes it difficult for lings and drones to actually get a nice bit of surface area. And now we're starting to see the cannon doing so much. There it is. GG. MaxPax takes the first game.
Yeah, and really, really well done, and throwing many wrenches onto Elazer side of things, I would say, right? Like starting not just with the cannon rush, but the follow-up, the Zealot even. Like these are all things that are a little bit different than a regular, normal old cannon rush. In fact, the first cannon is very tailored to this map because it is very difficult to find spaces on any maps where you can just cannon rush with 3 pylon blocks. So, so yeah, MaxPax just, doing what he needs to do here.
Yeah, absolutely doing a great job with that. And yeah, like you said, he executed really well. The Zealot was definitely a nice little touch there. And the nice thing about when you just go for the single gateway style of that, which I think it's becoming a little bit more popular, especially with like the pro players who aren't the I cannon rush every single game kind of player, is that you do just have more minerals for shield batteries and more cannons and stuff if you need them. Like you can be more defensive with your backups. So it's been very interesting to see, and that's going to be a really nice start for this series for MaxPax.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of this also hinges on that gas steal, right? Which is not to say that MaxPax would lose if he didn't steal that gas, but rather that he is playing according to what's going on in the game. And that is an ability that I think MaxPax has to thrive in chaos. That maybe is where Elazer lacks. So the response from Elazer, if he wants to try and come back into the series, I think it's going to be something like try to initiate aggression on his own terms, where he can be in control of the game. And he can be an aggressive player, but can he aggress earlier than MaxPax?
Yeah, I think another thing that's actually worth bringing up as well is Elazer's response was going for the hatchery at just another base. And I think that's actually a totally reasonable response. But the thing is, like, it didn't actually get any value, right? Like, he wasn't really mining there with any of his workers. He didn't really get units out to go for a big attack because, of course, there's a full wall on the other side of the map. Even if you kill the pylon or something, like, your roaches actually still can't fit through that gap. It's, like, very specifically walled off. So roaches can't fit through, but probes and stuff could. I feel like it just ended up being like a 300 mineral sink. Imagine that game where even with the gas geysers stealing everything, there's like an extra spine crawler or two to help siege up some of those forward cannons, the shield batteries. I feel like all these little things definitely could have added up a bit there. But either way, I don't think we're gonna see it again, especially on this map. But you know, time will tell.
Time will tell indeed. And yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, it's about being consistent. It's not like making the hatchery out there is a bad thing, but the way that he was approaching the game was making spines, queens, roaches, and he could only afford a couple of ravagers. So you don't really need the larva out there. And like you said, it was completely ineffective, right? It was just kind of a reaction that didn't really see any use, that wasn't really joined in with the rest of his plan in any sensible form. So yeah, it was just a waste.
All right, well, we're going to be starting up here in the top left-hand side of the map, atop of the red Protoss player, Badass, who's up 1-0 in this best of 3. He is MaxPax. He next on.
And in the bottom right-hand side, the best player from Poland. It is AGO's Elazer. That's what his Twitter description says, anyway. Some people inching closer, though, with Geralt also making a run for it.
Yeah, most definitely. You know, Paulo, I am a firm believer that if you can win your first game in a best of anything, like best of, obviously best of 1 is great because then you win the series, right? But best of 3, best of 5, best of 7. If you win the first game with a cannon rush as a Protoss player, I actually think that's like one of the best ways you can beat most Zerg players, because I think there is like a deep-seated core hatred of cannon rushes from Zerg players. Because cannon rushes have just been along for such a long time. Zerg players have been dealing with that kind of stuff, and their hatcheries getting canceled for like a decade now, a literal decade at this point. And there's just something, like, it just triggers something. And especially a lot of these pro player Zergs that just, they hate cannon rushes. They hate losing to cannon rushes. What a great way to start off the series for MaxPax.
Absolutely agree with you. And part of that reason is like if you're a Elazer, for example, you didn't really have much room to make mechanical mistakes, like as far as like the use of your units and stuff like that. Like he was biling where he needed to bile, and he was doing the things that he needed to do from the position that he was in. So all the mistakes had to have been mostly strategic or tactical, right? So it can be very frustrating because you literally don't know why you lost, basically. Or you would have won. Right?
Yeah, the differences are very subtle. It's not like a macro game where a lot of the time it goes to these really late game situations, and it's very clear if you're just lacking units or something. You're like, oh, the economic damage I took really set me behind. It will be things like, oh, my micro was very slight off at this one moment, so I ended up losing my queen, and like I had 4 units, so that's 25% of my army. It's like small things can really make a world of difference in those situations.
Or oh my god, he took my second gas, right? Like,
yeah. He took my second gas because I was a quarter of a second late on blocking it, right? Like the earlier on in the game things happen, I feel like oftentimes the small things have a big impact on the game.
Oh, surely, yeah. The easiest way to conceptualize of that is you think about it in terms of percentage. And at an earlier point in time, say one worker is something like, close to 10% of your economy, whereas where you have, 100 workers, it's 1%. So, yeah. It's a much greater impact.
I was really hoping as soon as you said like one worker, I was like, is Kat's gonna try and figure out what 1/12 is? Is he gonna try and do the math on that and figure out what percent it is? I'm like,
oh man, no,
Paulo, you're brave.
You've got me wanting. I say 1.20, right?
You're close, Paulo. It's actually 8.333 repeating, of course, percentage.
Yeah.
While we're talking about all that, though, I do want to note there are 6 gateways and also Resident Glaze finishing up. Like, this is a hyper committed all-in over here from MaxPax. No third base. Elazer doesn't have Zergling speed yet. He's holding on for as long as he can, but this is a bad spot.
It's bad. There's 8 roaches about to pop up, though, and that is important. Elazer more or less had the right response, but a little bit late. And this is the kind of thing that will really mess with him. Even if this attack ends up being defended, I think it's already done a decent bit of damage. And it, more importantly, has really shaken Elazer to where, he may not know exactly where he stands now.
Yeah, even a couple of these adepts are going to be able to shade further out and maybe get back to the reinforcements over here. Warp Prism is going to unsiege, but it's already gotten that extra warp in, so he can shade some more adepts further forward. Cancel the shade because he doesn't have to commit. He's already, like you said, done a lot of damage. He's up 8 workers, and all he's doing is basically buying himself time for more immortals to get out, to get up more defenses of that natural. And you know what? It's a blessing and a curse right now, Cats, is that he doesn't have a third base. The curse is obviously not having a third base means you're behind or like where you could be economically. The blessing is if there is just a counter all-in that was coming from Elazer, you just have to defend your natural. Like, you're not as afraid.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. And Elazer did kind of overmake units, so now he is back to droning. It's a little bit late of a start to drone up, though. To his credit, MaxPax does not have that base yet, so we'll see what he's able to do. He has been making immortals as well, kind of secretly there, Ravi.
Yeah, I think a good response, especially with how many roaches you've seen, and I think a common response is just like Resident Glaive attacks. So with those immortals popping on for it, I think he should have enough that he feels comfortable.
Oh, wow.
Okay, but not establishing a third base, just going straight across the map for a round 2. Oh, I think a Ling just saw the Warp Prism making its way across the map. Yeah, and confirms there's no third yet.
Yeah, but I think MaxPax does intend on taking a third as this attack transpires, but it's going to be very difficult for Elazer to hold, and that is the main thing here. Those 2 immortals have not yet been revealed. I love that Elazer is dropping additional 2 spines. They are really going to help in mineral lines wherever the adepts shade, but it is going to be extremely difficult not to take any damage here.
Oh, you know what he could do is he can actually just avoid all the queens, shade forward, up to the high ground, and then drop the immortals off over on the high ground. The Stalkers are going to be left on their own, but these adepts are so well surrounded right now. The surface area that these Lings are getting is actually pretty incredible, and even the Roach is getting a lot of damage done. I actually don't think this is working out that well for MaxPax. In fact, I think that actually just might be it.
Yeah, it might just be. This was kind of all in. I'm very surprised that he let the Shade go through and just Shade in the middle of that ramp. It's mostly a Roach army. I would have thought that just going to multiple mineral lines would have been maybe one of the better choices, and then isolating Roaches to where you can fight them wherever, you know, wherever with the Immortals, basically. You basically ensure that you win one of those fights convincingly. Instead, he does what he did here, and the Immortals were, even for the most part, focusing Circlings. They were not, you know, shift-clicked onto Roaches, so it's even worse.
That is going to make things brutal. Robotics Bay is the ultimate sign of, well, maybe if I get a disruptor, things will change. But it's a big ask right now. Queen is actually going to be in here in time to push back the War Prism as well. So the Immortals, their fun is kind of over, even with the Observer over here. And, ooh, is Elazer actually just starting to send all of his units across the map. Starting to move a bit off of creep, but I think he's just chasing down the War Prism for now.
Yeah, I mean, he might as well. I wouldn't mind the Elazer piling on the aggression right now. He is making 10 additional Roaches, rather, because MaxPax really is kind of hoping that Elazer doesn't move out, and that is, you know, how he catches back up. Is just being as greedy as possible and making tech units that could potentially kill half of the army of Elazer if he's not paying attention.
Yeah, and it's just those two Immortals in the War Prism that are keeping Elazer at home, I feel like, right now. It's like the equivalent of, you know, you have the entire army of, like, America or something. They're all stationed. They're like, all right, let's get ready to move out troops. And then you hear about, like, one guy, it's like James Bond, sneaks into the back lines. They're like, okay, we need the entire army to handle this guy. And it's not exactly an unfair response, because two Immortals in a War Prism, I think anyone that's watching StarCraft the last 10 years knows how much they can do, but well, those two Immortals are back home, and there's nothing stopping this army from moving out.
Disruptors. These disruptor shots have to be huge. They are how MaxPax could stabilize Elazer. No, with the best. Oh, two huge shots actually. Ravi, this might be enough. That was so much lost on the side of Elazer.
Is it enough?
About the maximum possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely even things up quite a bit. I think if he can keep those disruptors alive for a little bit longer, get one more shot off, I'll start believing, but front door is open over here at the natural expansion. I love just segmenting off a few units over here. It's now not just about the army engagement, it's also about the economic damage that's being done behind this.
Yeah, and the two subsequent shots are gonna miss and whiff completely from those disruptors. Now those links have killed already 23 workers. I think this is a too far gone game to recover for MaxPax here. I really liked what he did for the most part, honestly. I would have loved for this third to come out as he was moving out, perhaps at least. Because, you know, Adepts are not known for finishing games, right? Like, when you're going for an Adept all-in, you're probably at the very, like, in the best case scenario, you're going to kill a lot of workers, but you're still going to want to kind of transition. So I really would have liked to see that, but other than that, the Shade onto the ramp with that many Roaches, Ravagers, Links, Queens, everything, a little bit sketch.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Well, regardless, that is going to be the situation that MaxPax left himself in. So the series is going to be tied up 1-1 now. We're going to be moving to a game number 3 right after a short break. Don't go anywhere to watch the conclusion of this series. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're moving into game number 3 between these two players. We're going to find out whether or not MaxPax will be able to take his first ever victory against Elazer in a tournament setting, or if Elazer is going to be able to close this one out with a 2-1 and keep his, undefeated record so far in the group.
Yeah, I mean, that would be nice for either player. They both kind of need it here, but MaxPax maybe a little bit more. We are now loading in. And here we are.
There we are.
Now,
indeed.
right here.
Right here. There it is. All right. Well, we're going to be starting over here in the top right-hand side of the map, on top of that red Protoss player. Putting the X in Team X on with 2 X's in his name. It is MaxPax.
Put in the laser in Agoe. It is AGO's Elazer.
I'm still thinking about that one. Putting the laser in Agoe.
All right.
It hasn't quite clicked for me, but I'm sure it will eventually.
Yeah. You'll see it. Wait, was there a probe block? Oh, yeah, there was. So the laser is going to be forced to drop the hatchery out of location. And yeah, not much else going on. Pretty standard CVP to start things off. But you feel pretty good as the Protoss, I think, when you get the hatch block.
Yeah, I think so. Especially with how Zergs had that slight period of the meta also where they were like, well, we'll just take our hatcheries even earlier. It's physically impossible for you to block this hatchery. And then Protoss players are like, well, then we'll just stop hatch blocking. And then Zerg players are like, okay, we can start taking it later again, guys. Protoss players, it's been such a funny circle triangle of build order openings to see.
Yeah, definitely. It's unfavorable for the Zerg to also drop the hatchery earlier, so it's very difficult to just kind of guess what's gonna happen. I think Protoss most often will block it, but yeah, like you said, I mean, there's been some mixes of like weird early pulls where kind of what we saw Raynor do. Like I feel like that's kind of decent against the hatch blocks as well.
Yeah, I think so. Well, drones are still just going to get transferred over to that natural. So probe has been able to see all of that. A couple of lings will be popping out to push back that probe and finally take that natural expansion location for Elazer. It's all looking like a normal opening, and I feel like we might actually get into what I originally had hinted at. I've seen from MaxPax a bit more of. We'll see if that ends up actually being the case, because he's also just opened up into like 6-gate Resonant Glaives adept attacks. But I feel like I've seen him go for a lot of these Stargate plays that go into like triple Stargate, mass out voideries, get into carriers. Let's go late game.
Yeah, I've seen him do that before. Now lately, what I saw him that I think he was working on was something like that. But really, he stayed on Stargates for too long, and then he was going for a robo and switching on to kind of ground to counter the eventual highness, which is my favorite approach. It's just kind of really old school, like Void Ray into something like Colossus. I think is super strong, and I think it's underused. And MaxPax was going for that, which had me very excited. But then he made too many Void Rays, kind of like Mana did, where the Void Rays really don't come into play, like they don't scale well. And he was just kind of massing them and not really doing enough with them to justify them. So I would like to see something similar, but switching it up just a little bit.
Yeah, I'd agree with something like that. It is going to be that first unit coming out of Void Ray, which again could just be the new meta thing.
Out, yeah.
Oh, sorry, yeah, there's already an Oracle actually out. Yeah, okay. I like that.
Yeah.
Void Ray can go clean up some Overlords and stuff while the Oracle pokes around the map. And there's no spores just yet. The second queen's moving out of position, so this Oracle has a nice opportunity.
Yeah, it's fantastic. What I love about this Oracle is that the position of the Stargate here is so tucked in that MaxPax thought I can get an Oracle without it being necessarily scouted, right? And there's no real good high ground for the Overlords to sit in on this map either, like close to the Zerg. So because the one high ground can actually be spotted from the cliff, which is kind of weird by Adepts and Stalkers. But yeah, so he gets away with getting the Oracle out first. I think identifying that there's no Oracle that's gonna spot it. So I love that, and it pays off.
Yeah. Well, you're going to see the second and third Stargates being added on there.
Ooh.
I think MaxPax was supply block for a moment, so his second Voider is a little bit later, but he's going to be able to get it out without too much delay. And yeah, we'll get to see how MaxPax likes to play with his Void Ray style in this kind of opening. Like you were saying, you do have to be active with it. There is that period of time where the Void Rays just have dominance over the map, and you really have to find a way to exploit that time, keep the Zerg not only like a little bit honest, but also just pin back until you can get up those other responses, like you said, like Colossus or High Templars at Storm, or, you know, carriers in large enough numbers.
Yeah, I am completely with you. If these Void Rays don't manage to find an angle to pick off something like a hatchery, I don't think they'll pay for themselves, because once Hydras are out, they'll start outscaling the Void Rays. Like, just Hydras are just, you know, for sheer numbers, for cost, are going to be way better than Void Rays, I think. And not to mention the Zerg usually has a pretty healthy economy. This round on the Adepts is not what MaxPax was hoping for.
Yeah, the Void Rays are going to come in, but every single Adept actually ends up dying over there. There's one Adept that's left over a little bit later on, but the Nidus Worm is also going to be coming on out. A single Void Ray might be wondering, where are the Queens? Well, the Queens are all going to be showing up, and I think when you see that many Queens, you're like,
Yeah, so you really need to find, you know, like that's the one thing, the one good thing is that those Queens are so very slow, but now they're on offense, and this is going to be maybe kind of decent for MaxPax if he can hold here, because he's going to have more Void Rays than Elazer perhaps expects. So if, oh, but the shield batteries are not up, that is so huge, this Void Rays stand no chance.
Loses the Oracle as well, and all of these probes are also going to be dying on the retreat, because yeah, sure, the Void Rays are there, but there's only probes on the ground. That's the only unit for the Lings to attack. Nidus Worm does get denied, but now this is MaxPax saying, okay, I have to basically win / get extremely far ahead on 2 bases now. I don't want to get a third for a while.
Yeah, it's looking very dire for MaxPax. What a great move. What a great adaptation from Elazer just to go for the Nidus Queens. I mean, they are kind of like the best counter to Void Rays if you can get them across the map. So he chose the Nidus, and this is a very hefty, very well-executed attack, and that's what Elazer, I think, is best at. So kind of piling on his aggression, kind of starting things on his own accord. This shield battery overcharge, I mean, you wish he had that one at the third so he could actually do this and fight with the Void Rays against the Queens. But yeah, as it stands, Elazer should just be looking to retreat and be happy with his third kill.
Yeah, and Night Sniper over here keeping these Queens alive against the Void Rays, who, I mean, Void Rays really just want to fight with the shield battery overcharge, right? But they're
Elazer needs to get out here. I mean, he doesn't need to get out, but he wants to get out. Okay, there we go.
Yeah. Oh, I think this is a very nice spot for Elazer, I agree. And well, the one thing that I could see maybe still pull this game back is, you know what? When you get this many Void Rays, if you keep them alive, if you're active with them, and you get Flux Veins, let me tell you something, cats. They can evaporate hatcheries.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, the overcharge is very fast, and that's exactly what MaxPax is going to have to do, is look for hatcheries out on the map and kill them before the army of Queens / at this point Hydras shows up, because those Hydras are going to DPS the Void Rays really fast. The Queens, they win against the Void Rays, but they win over a long fight. Hydras, they'll melt them, so MaxPax has to be really careful now.
Yeah, 13 Hydras are about to pop with 7 already on out. Third base going to get canceled over there. And the Queens are in position against the Void Rays. There's no shield batteries to retreat back to. There's no way that you can just kind of heal up and come back very easily. It's going to take a while, but at least he'll be able to settle for a kill on the 4th, because there's no way that survives.
Yeah, no chance, Jose. He doesn't even need to use the prismatic alignment. He's going to have that very available to him. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what you do from here on if you're MaxPax. It's looking so very difficult, and he's making more Void Rays, right? I mean, he has 3 Stargates, so it's very difficult to fault him for it.
Yeah, I want to touch upon something that Elazer did, which I really like. He actually threw up a Nidus Worm from the main base to his own third. This is, I mean, cats, you'll love this. This is like almost Brood War-esque, right? Where you're connecting your bases, not with a Nidus Worm, not just trying to be aggressive with it. And that's great, because the Queens were such an important part of the defense earlier on before the Hydras popped out. He didn't know which angle the Void Rays are necessarily going to come from, so having the Nidus Worm to allow his units to get in position, so critical.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he's using it for here with the Queen flank. However, It looks like MaxPax might have found a small opening, and he's gonna kill that hatchery before it comes up. Yeah, that is fast indeed. That is a lot of Void Rays with prismatic alignment, but they can't activate it again, so they're gonna have to pull back. There are some overlords out on the map to be picked off. I mean, MaxPax needs everything that he can get. To his credit, he is trying to transition into carriers. If he can get to a decent number of carriers, then maybe there's a chance.
Yeah, the Void Rays on the other side of the map are getting surrounded by those Hydras and the Queens. He ends up losing a couple of his Void Rays. I also want to say, like, you know, to MaxPax's credit, a fourth base hasn't actually gotten up yet here for Elazer. It's really been heavily delayed, and he's staying so defensive with the units back over here on his own side of the map. If MaxPax could get up those carriers and also establish a third, I believe, but I think Elazer knows that, and that's why he's moving out now.
Yeah, this is a gigantic army, and it's a perfect move out from Elazer, who is maxed out. He's looking to trade. Even if he doesn't kill MaxPax, which he will, he could just remax, basically, and keep his economic lead and do whatever he needs to do. It's just you know, it's just closing out the game from this point on, really. It has been for a while. It always has been.
Yeah, Elazer's been in a great spot for a while off of that opening, and now going to be able to kill the Cyber Core, kill any of these interceptors that are out. The carriers are basically paperweights for a bit, and they're going to go down. It's going to be pretty painful here. GG, Elazer